This is the greatest time in the world to be alive, period. The amount and level of complaining and narcissism and stress and depression and anxiety is off the charts. The amount of drugs that people are addicted to is something we've never seen. This is the last 30 years. We've never seen anything like it in human history. And yet, it is the greatest time in the world to be alive. Perspective, people. We all need to get perspective. I keep a picture on my phone, which I'll put up right here. And this picture, I keep it at the ready. I've shown this picture 100 times because I think that perspective, I talk about superpowers all the time, and perspective is one of mine. I never forget where I come from. I never forget where I've been. I never forget what I've done, good and bad. I never forget what I've done wrong. And I try to learn on it and take responsibility for it and fix it. But that perspective of how good our lives are help in the decision-making process of our day-to-day lives, everything from jobs to health. But we ignore it. The richer we get, the fatter we get, right? Fatter as a society in terms of the amount of money that we have. When there's so much excess, we lose our minds, and we've never seen this kind of success ever. When I was a kid in the early 1970s, 90% of the planet was in poverty, and now it's only 10%. When I was a kid, I stole food as a kid. Poor people in America literally had nothing. Today, what's the poor have? They have televisions, and they have air conditioning, and they have cars, and they have video games, and they have all of these things. They order food on apps that is brought to them. These are the poor. Now, I'm not saying that poor doesn't suck. I'm not saying that you'd rather have a few dollars. I'm not saying any of that. But as someone who couldn't pay an electric bill as a child, I'm telling you that it is a way different world today. And yet our problems are significantly worse. And being aware of that is a critical superpower. Understanding that where we are in the world today is the greatest time ever to be alive. I'll give one more example. I get asked all the time from the business perspective, Jerry, how do you do it? What do I do? What's your advice? And I say, again, perspective. When I was a kid, to make a phone call, we didn't have a phone for most of my childhood in the house. So I had to walk, half a mile to the nearest payphone. Now, when I got there with that dime, it's a quarter now, but with that dime, there was no guarantee there was going to be somebody on the other side to answer the phone. No guarantee at all. So I walked all that way to make a phone call to see if my boy wants to go do something. And he's outside. He could have been in the bathroom. He wouldn't know who called him. He'd have no idea. He just heard the phone ring. There was no one there at home to answer it. He's in the bathroom. And I missed that connection. And I turn around and I walk back home. And if I want to try to call him back again, it's going to cost me another dime, or it's going to cost me another walk. Back up I go to make that call all over again. That's just to get a hold of of a buddy. And now what do? Right? Send a text. Instantaneous. How much easier is that? If you want to know what the population of Paraguay is, when I was a child, it would take a trip to the library. And into the library, then the librarian would have to show me where the book is that I could find, encyclopedia, wherever it is, that I would find that information. And that information would probably be 2 years old by the time I get it. And it would show me the population of Paraguay. How do I do it now? How fast is it to get that information? How much easier is our lives? And yet, how many people think our lives are easier today than before? How many people think today's lives are much more difficult? I would put to you that number is a majority by far based on our lack of self-awareness. And I'll leave it at this. This picture. Whenever I'm feeling over my skis, whenever I'm feeling too good about myself, whenever I'm feeling like life is hard and I've gotten too much and it might be something that I can't handle, something that's over my head, I'm drowning, life sucks, this is too hard, this is no good. I look at this picture. Tell me how hard your life is. Looking at this picture. I dare you. Opportunities are everywhere. You got to go get them. Go for a walk.